Where did the money go? Where did the trust go? And how did the glimmering reality show we've watched for over a decade suddenly turn into a courtroom battlefield? For years, viewers have followed the Brown family, witnessing not just plural marriage, but real-life drama, financial tension, and the facade of perfect family unity. Off camera, though, the story might have been much dirtier than any audience could have imagined. Christine Brown, who has long been defined as the loyal, dependable wife and mom, reportedly filed a lawsuit that can potentially destroy the public reputation of her family and the future of the series on TLC. It is a story of money, deception, and a legal firestorm that threatens to bulldoze everything Kody Brown has constructed. The network, the family, the show, everything based on a complicated web of contracts, money, and allegiance. As viewers witness the laughter, the bickering, and the occasional tears, insiders know there is a behind the scenes tale the cameras never told. A family torn apart not only by emotion but by money control and secret understandings. Christine, the longtime behind the scenes power player, has had enough. What was the catalyst for this courtroom firestorm? The Guardian says that, as told by family insiders, Christine initially noticed inconsistencies in the finances of the TLC show. Charges she believed were being shared between the wives appeared to have been going somewhere else. Suspicions mounted over several months before coming to a dramatic head. Christine instructed lawyers and made a formal complaint. The consequences: potentially shutting down Cody's deal with TLC, spilling inter-network gossip, and redefining the dynamic of the Sister Wives franchise forever. But this is not a story of greed. This is a story of betrayal. This is a story of a public facade that covers up backroom maneuvers, and it is about a woman who might finally have the power to face down the man who long dictated not just the cameras, but the family story, bankroll, and destiny. Before we dig deeper into the courtroom tactics, secret financial records, and the explosive testimony that will emerge, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't be able to miss a single surprise, a single slip, or a single moment of cliffhanger in what is shaping up to be one of the most sensational reality television courtroom battles of all time. Now, let's begin where it all started. The first glimpses that Christine had uncovered a mystery of cash she no longer wished to ignore. Christine had always been portrayed as the voice of reason, the wife who was peacemaker, the mother who kept the family together during difficult times. But sources report that she became short-tempered when she started noticing discrepancies in the way earnings from the show were reported and real family expenditures. Home improvements, airplane flights, appearance fees, it all seemed to draw a picture not publicly stated. The suit insiders report initially started out as a request for paperwork. Christine's team requested detailed financial statements from the family's LLC, which is allegedly responsible for most of the show's proceeds, but answers were allegedly not forthcoming, leaving out crucial pieces of evidence that could reveal discretionary payments, bonuses, or secret financial arrangements. This is where the drama begins to get more serious. When usual appeals for openness failed, Christine's attorneys stepped in and did the work themselves, suing motions and subpoenas that coveted not only access to the family LLC but also to Cody's personal financial records. And what those subpoenas might reveal can turn the world around. Sources reveal that payments, which were thought to be split, were perhaps made to Cody himself or to accounts owned by him. The implication is sinister: a patriarch publicly portraying himself as monetary responsibility, privately diverting funds for unstated reasons. The courtroom has been transformed into the battlefield. Christine, long underappreciated, may possess the tipping evidence to counter not only Cody's control of household finances, but the continued union with TLC. The show's fate, previously presumed by the fans, now hangs in the balance. Even the very first legal complaint was crafty but merciless. Christine's attorney filed a motion requesting full access to the finances of the family's primary LLCs, the firm that reportedly receives all the money from the show, appearances, and merchandising. The filing cited lack of transparency and potential misappropriation of funds as the reason for the motion. While on the surface it seemed like a routine legal proceeding, sources say the consequences were ground-shattering. Insiders say the documents Christine was seeking include bank statements, contracts, and payment schedules dating back more than half a dozen years. Years when the Browns' public persona depicted a well-adjusted, team-playing family. But as Christine claims, those years may be covering a very different story. Partisanly, Christine's attorney set forward two notable contradictions: appearance fees and travel costs fee. As submissions reveal, the family's records attest to typical fees being dispersed fairly evenly among the wives. But internal papers, which were obtained by Christine, allegedly show that massive amounts of this cash were being steered into organizations that were directly under Cody's management. Luxury vacations, home remodeling, and even personal loans are reported to have been funded this way, sidestepping the agreed-upon family budget. Unreported real estate investments. The reports also show a trend of high-priced real estate purchases made in Cody's name or in offshore accounts. Whereas TLC showcased the Browns' homes and assets as part of family life, Christine claims that these transactions were never disclosed to the other wives and may have violated fiduciary duties within the family LLC. Christine's motion did not stop at uncovering financial irregularities. It also questioned the legality of Cody's domination over the TLC contract itself. While Cody has always been the franchise's public face, Christine's filing suggests that network contracts call for full disclosure from everyone who has a hand in the family's business deal. If so, this may imperil not just Cody's monopoly, but the very existence of the show we're used to seeing. Its internal court sources indicate the filing also contains a request for a forensic accounting conducted separately. That would be a third-party expert in finance who could sift through every single payment, loan, and transaction made over the span of years and tell us exactly where all the money went and to whom it went most. The reaction of Cody's team was quick but measured. A message from his attorney reinforced that the financial arrangements were made in good faith and deplored Christine for being excessive with her legal maneuvers. But behind the scenes, sources indicate that Cody is deeply disturbed. The legal scrutiny may uncover behind the scenes bargains that, if they became public, would generate public outcry and media backlash, jeopardizing not only his own personal reputation, but the integrity of the TLC franchise overall. Meanwhile, TLC has been said to have been monitoring the case quietly as well. According to sources, the network is aware of Christine's pleadings and how they might affect their reality show. Executives at the two networks are reportedly working their way through provisions in contracts relating to transparency, family conflicts, and moral conduct, fully cognizant that public ire over any money scandal has a direct impact on ratings, ad revenue, and overall trust in the brand. Christine, however, is unconcerned. Sources close to her indicate that she is put together, calculating, and very well armed. She is aware that the court can take months, and more than that, to review her motions and subpoenas. But she is bent on revealing what she sees as a pattern of budget mismanagement and deception. Her ultimate goal, sources say, is not merely accountability but rearrangement of the family's fiscal authority accurately representing all wives. The stakes are as high as they come. For Cody, it is no longer a question of money. It is a question of control, perception, and the sustainability of a television empire based on a family narrative which could now unravel before the cameras. The courtroom was electric from the first gavel fall. Media cameras were not allowed inside, but sources inside the court described an electric atmosphere, with attorneys shuffling papers, judges reading from notes, and Cody obviously uncomfortable. For the first time in years, the Browns' personal and private financial disputes would be put under the spotlight before a judicial authority. Christine was ready with poise and determination. Sources reveal that she prepared for weeks, collaborating with her legal team to ensure that every document was backed by facts. Her goal was very straightforward: make it clear that Cody's management of the family finances, and by extension the TLC offer, was vague and potentially to the other wives' detriment. The initial testimony set the stage for the trial. A financial expert retained by Christine broke down discrepancies between the Browns' bank accounts and spending reports. They identified misalignments between reported income and expenditure, with a focus on high-end real estate and personal loans that, as the filing described, avoided joint decision-making processes. During the presentation of evidence, there was whispering in the courtroom. The judge interrupted several times, seeking to understand the legitimacy of the transactions and both wives' obligations under the family LLC. Christine's attorney argued that the contracts signed with TLC required full transparency by all parties, something that had profound implications if proven to be true. Cody testified, however, under great pressure. Witnesses testified that he responded in a defensive style, careful in his choice of words, yet also showing clear signs of anger. When questioned regarding the real estate investments, he maintained that all the choices were made in good faith, and that the family financial arrangement had always been common knowledge amongst them in private. Attempts by other members of the family made matters even worse. Janelle and Meri were reported to be present in attendance, keeping a silent watch from the sidelines. Insiders of the family claim wives were conflicted between coming to Cody's defense in public and corroborating Christine's claims in private. The courtroom drama underscored not only a court struggle, but a family in crisis, grappling with unresolved issues of years and dysfunctional finances. Outside the courthouse, the media were quick to pick up on the action. Headlines started speculating on what might happen next, with words such as "family feud blows wide open in court" and "Cody's TLC contract in peril" making headlines. While TLC stayed publicly neutral, insiders indicate that executives were following each hearing closely, recognizing that a public scandal could interfere with production cycles and viewer loyalty. Christine's legal approach was thorough. She produced records indicating payments to entities controlled by Cody alone, drawing attention to possible conflicts of interest. She also handed over emails and memos that, her lawyers maintained, showed efforts to conceal financial data from the other wives. Every shred of evidence was meant to establish a pattern: Cody's solo management of the family's finances, and by proxy, the show's profits. As the first hearing concluded, the judge requested further documents and scheduled further sessions to thoroughly explore the allegations. Sources report that Cody walked out of the courthouse visibly shaken, whereas Christine remained calm, confident that the evidence presented had provided the case with a solid platform to stand on. The courtroom drama created ripples in the family and the media. While most viewers were accustomed to seeing the Browns' personal conflicts, the judicial revelation of money mismanagement added an additional level of scrutiny and hype. Every filing made and every bit of testimony given became fodder for speculation, having social media and fan boards aglow with rumination. The stakes were now undeniable. Christine's suit not only risked forcing Cody to account for years of financial moves, but potentially could have an impact on the very existence of the TLC reality show, prompting questions about contract compliance as well as moral governance. Christine's attorneys did not simply appear before court without purpose. They appeared strengthened by a well-honed case meant to uncover not only financial improprieties, but also Cody's governance over the sister wives brand. The evidence introduced by the sources included a combination of financial documents, confidential correspondence, and insider testimony, each selectively chosen to depict one-way control by Cody. A prime piece of evidence in the case was a set of financial graphs presenting the interchanging of money between family accounts, LLCs, and personal investments. The charts illustrated significant sums expended on business and real estate of which other wives allegedly were unaware, and they raised suspicions of illegality and transparency. Christine's team had contended that such non-disclosure was a breach of their internal understandings, as well as of the contractual commitments to TLC, to have all partners sign off on significant financial moves. In addition to the financial data, the legal counsel used emails and messages that implied conscious omissions. Other letters highlighted Cody's role in making significant financial decisions on his own, without consulting the other wives, causing strain not only in the family but also as far as their working commitment. These letters were meant to exhibit a pattern of behavior, one in which Cody had near total domination, possibly at the expense of the family and the integrity of the show. Another component of the scheme was insider testimony. Former employees, family friends, and financial advisors were to provide testimony about irregularities and unconventional practices that had caused stress over the years. Some insiders described situations where decisions were made impulsively or without documentation, corroborating Christine's claims that Cody's only decision-making was systemic, not ad hoc. The possible ramifications of this testimony extended far beyond the courtroom. TLC producers who closely monitor the insider and public compliance have reportedly begun reviewing contracts and internal audits. A serious issue like Christine's could lead to a reevaluation of Cody's role within the show, potentially even putting his contract at risk. Legal observers cited that if Christine's charges ultimately hold true, TLC would have cause to renegotiate, or even to terminate, Cody's involvement in order to safeguard network interests. Beyond the family, reactions to the legal approach were split, but tense. Sources cite that Janelle and Meri were privately supportive insofar as Christine's move disclosed truths they had long harbored but were not prepared to confront openly. In the meantime, Cody was said to be concerned not only with the legal implications, but also the long-term reputational harm to his public image, which had taken many years to build on nearly 2 decades of reality television. Social media buzz grew stronger as bits of courtroom bombshells leaked. Fandoms analyzed charts, screenshots, and commentary, guessing at the meaning for the show and for Cody himself. Headlines such as "Christine's evidence could end Cody's TLC career" and "Family drama hits legal high point" traveled far and wide, raising the stakes. Christine's team was wise to play up both personal and professional accountability. By tying fiscal mismanagement to the show's integrity, they positioned the issue not just as a personal conflict, but one with real consequences for viewers, sponsors, and the network. Each of the documents submitted was intended to highlight a set of decisions that, left uninvestigated, would continue to hurt the family and the Sister Wives franchise. At the conclusion of these initial hearings, it became clear that Christine's approach was more than a simple legal argument, more of a calculated effort to shift power dynamics within the family, and perhaps shift the course of the show too. Cody's predicament was becoming increasingly unsustainable, and insiders were speculating that the suit could lead to an official reprimand, renegotiation of his contract, or even his outright termination from TLC. The courtroom atmosphere shifted irrevocably when former advisors and staff testified. Theirs was an amalgam of straight-talking confession and condemning vignettes, all detailing tension, secrecy, and, in some cases, mismanagement. To Christine, these insiders mattered. These legitimized her allegations, showing that the issues were not fabricated by the family, but attested to by those that had observed the internal dynamics firsthand. A manager has spoken of scenarios where huge sums of money were transferred without full disclosure to the family. "I was asked to wire money for projects that some wives didn't know about," the money manager testified. "When I asked, I was told to have faith in the process, but the issue of transparency bothered me." This witness testimony highlighted not only potential legal violations, but also ethical issues about handling money in the guise of family business by Cody. Former nanny and house staff also testified, describing everyday interaction with a very hierarchical system, where Cody had the final say and questioning him was taboo. They described occasions of exclusion of wives from important money matters, and the way concerns were sublimely dodged. Christine's attorneys used these vignettes to illustrate an inconsistent pattern. Power to decide was held tight with Cody and created both personal and professional imbalance. Drama unfolded in court as a former production assistant revealed backstage manipulations designed to show a more cheerful family relationship than actually existed. "The cameras didn't capture disagreements," the assistant explained. "Some of the fights were downplayed, edited, or cut out so that the story of the show could work." This revelation struck a sensitive chord. Not only could it sully the credibility of Cody in court, but also the reputation of TLC programming. If viewers learned the show had been edited to cover up significant conflicts, then sponsorships and ratings would be affected. Christine's attorneys tactfully tied these insider testimony to her general charge that Cody's actions spilled over into personal disagreements and impacted professional duties related to the Sister Wives brand. All of the testimonials demonstrated that there was a habitual pattern of behavior, one that ignored criticism from other wives, and, as a secondary consequence, potentially violated contractual obligations to TLC. The court also had testimony from a family friend who had witnessed firsthand the growing tensions. Their testimony described conflicts regarding property, finances, and image maintenance in public life. They emphasized that Christine always sought to address issues quietly, only to be confronted by resistance and dismissal on the part of Cody. This added another layer of evidence. Christine was not acting irresponsibly or retaliatory. She was responding to an existing imbalance of communication and responsibility. The impact of these testimonies was immediate. Witnesses noted how Cody appeared visibly distressed, even speaking to his attorneys in hushed tones, and showing signs of anxiety never seen before in the courtroom. Social media erupted with real-time reactions, followers dissecting every minute detail, speculating whether Cody would survive the mounting evidence against him. Headlines like "Courtroom Shocker Insiders Reveal Cody's Secret Control Over Family and Show" went viral overnight, generating more public inquiry for TLC. Such insider accounts were equally troubling. Executives were reported to have begun reworking contracts and compliance programs, assessing whether the network's partnership agreements had been completely honored. The accounts didn't just affect the family's legal status. They raised questions about the integrity of the show and the network's exposure to potential legal complications. Once this testimony phase was completed, the court had a clear picture of a strained family, a patriarch whose words were legally and professionally heavy, and a wife, Christine, who had gone to great efforts to gather paperwork that made her charges absolute. The delicate dance between personal commitment and legal obligation set the stage for the next phase of the war: the addition of financial audits and proof of diverted funds. The courtroom became hushed as Christine's attorneys revealed a comprehensive set of financial audits. These weren't ordinary statements, but a painstakingly detailed set of records capturing transactions, transfers, and spending that had gone largely unobserved. Each page told a story of unauthorized spending, money spent secretly, and spending behavior that painted a frightening picture. Christine's attorney began with the basics, comparing family expenses and income, highlighting dramatic disparities. "We are not talking about minor oversights," the attorney asserted. "These figures illustrate a clear pattern of one-way monetary decision making which has a direct impact on all the parties to the transactions." Graphs and charts on large screens outline months of activity, showing cash sucked off into individual ventures, unnecessary spending, and accounts never clearly disclosed. Perhaps the most graphic example was a $200,000 payment described as family investment, which, according to auditors, had been diverted into a personal account. The documents included memos, emails, and even handwritten notes by Cody himself, raising questions as to whether such expenditures were ever disclosed to the rest of the family or to TLC executives. The court growled as the testimony was read. The latter wasn't speculation, it was paper trail proof. Christine's attorneys also cited large expenditures for property and renovations, some of which were tagged for family business. But auditors found receipts and contracts that showed some of the properties were bought or renovated without consulting the other wives. "It is different to invest personally," Christine's lawyer explained, "but when it is money from a joint account or impacts contractual relationships with a network, honesty is not optional, it is mandatory." The accountant who testified on the stand explained in great detail how these clandestine transactions can damage not just the family budget, but Cody's professional reputation with TLC networks are based on integrity and accountability with talent. The accountant noted, "If funds are spent or gone unrecorded, there is a threat of breach of contract and reputation harm." Every bob of the judge's head, and the jury indicated the weight of these findings. Social media caught wind quickly of the audit revelations. Fans dissected the figures, and online forums were filled with rumors. Could this signal the end of Cody's TLC days? The tale was no longer simply one of family intrigue. It was an open exploration of ethics, transparency, and professional accountability. Christine's strategy was calculated. She wasn't having these audits delivered as a humiliation. She was having them delivered to create irrefutable proof of control and mismanagement. With each chart, each line entry, each highlighted receipt and evidence, reinforcing her testimony that Cody had acted on his own each time, and that those actions had consequences beyond the family realm. Evidence piled up, putting tension in the courtroom. Cody and his lawyers openly squirmed, exchanging hushed confidences and frequently shooting anxious glances at the projections on the screen. The judge, leaning forward in their seat, took notes meticulously, signaling the seriousness with which the court was approaching this financial exposition. Christine's team concluded this phase by showing a comparison of TLC's show profits versus the personal expenditures, a visual demonstration of how closely intertwined the family's private finances were with professional obligations. This was the turning point. The court was no longer listening to individual disputes. It was seeing written accounts of how those disputes could impact contracts, obligations, and responsibility in business. With the financial audits completed, the courtroom started to turn its attention towards people instead of numbers. Christine's attorneys hired multiple family members to testify, each one prepared to offer first-hand testimony about the emotional and relational toll of Cody's decisions. This phase was meant to show that the impact of mismanagement went far beyond spreadsheets. It touched lives, marriages, and trust. Janelle, Cody's second wife, was first on the stand. She testified in a stern but choked voice of the stress, from secret expenses and unilateral decisions. "It wasn't about money," she said, tears glinting in her eyes. "It was the feeling that our opinions didn't matter, that we weren't able to have a say in decisions regarding our family and our future." The courtroom went silent, all ears glued to her words. Second, Meri spoke of experiences with broken promises and investments made in secret. "We believed that Cody would be honest with us," Meri said. "But again and again we found ourselves discovering things done behind our backs." It brought about anxiety, confusion, and a feeling of ongoing instability. These words lent support to Christine's earlier observation that Cody's behavior was systemic and patterned, not as individual events. Christine herself then took the stand, her face calm but resolute. She described the financial and personal pressures she experienced, underscoring the way Cody's choices affected not only her but the entire family. "I fought for clarity, accountability, and fairness," Christine testified. "This isn't about the show. It is about trust, honesty, and integrity we owe each other as a family." The emotional effect of these testimonies was devastating. Attorneys on both sides noticed the tension. Even the judge leaned forward, hanging on their every word. Christine's strategy was clear. She was combining proof of money with personal testimony to construct a multi-dimensional case that would be in a position to sway both the court and public opinion. Next, Law received forensic psychologist testimony, which explained how ethereal frequent exposure to secret financial manipulations and deliberate concealment can impact family functioning, trust, and decision-making. The psychologist's analysis gave the emotional depositions scientific perspective, demonstrating that the effects weren't anecdotal, they could be measured and significant. Cross-examinations witnessed Cody's attorneys attempting to downplay the emotional impact, presenting the complaints as exaggerated or typical in family fights. But the careful interweaving of economic facts with emotional testimonies made it difficult to brush off Christine's allegations. All the witnesses confirmed the pattern of secrecy, one-sided choices, and stress. Social media reaction was immediate. Portions of the testimonies went viral, drawing fans and pundits' attention. Reactions varied from praises for Christine's bravery to outrage at Cody's behavior, which stoked rumors that the aftermath would affect his status with TLC. The narrative had evolved from soap opera among family members to a broader debate about responsibility, ethics, and professionalism. By the end of day, the court had seen beyond numbers. It had witnessed the human cost of financial concealment. Christine's approach had employed logic and emotion side by side, ensuring the court was aware of both quantifiable impact and individual expense. Next, the emotional witness yielded to courtroom theatrics in a high-stakes court of law: Cody's contractual obligations with TLC. Christine's lawyers argued that alleged fraud and mismanagement could constitute a breach of contract, giving the network grounds to reconsider their agreement. Christine's lawyer handed out photocopies of the network contract, highlighting provisions on honesty, transparency, and moral behavior. TLC expects its talent to have integrity, the lawyer noted, behavior that endangers family well. Being and dishonestly portrays finances can transgress these expectations, perhaps voiding the contract. Legal scholars provided expert testimony regarding precedent in entertainment law. A number of previous cases were referenced in which networks canceled contracts in response to public scandals, trust breaches, or fraud on the part of participants in a show. The reason was straightforward: if Christine's claims were true, Cody would risk losing his very professional career, including the cancellation of his TLC deal. Cody's defense had a strong counterargument. They argued that personal differences and financial issues among family members had no place in disrupting an entertainment contractual arrangement. Their case relied on distinguishing between personal court battles and professional mandates. A network deal is viewership and performance, not private family life, Cody's lawyer insisted. While arguing, Christine's team employed the emotional testimony and financial audits as proof that mismanagement may be in charge in the wrong direction. They suggested public opinion is one of the drivers, and networks are very attuned to scandals that can spoil their reputation. With the social media already buzzing with the testimonies, Christine's attorneys threatened that TLC's own reputation was at stake if Cody was permitted to stay on television without consequences. The judge paused to consider the potential ramifications. Though she had no direct say over what TLC might decide, her rulings on the alleged financial mismanagement and emotional distress could provide Christine with negotiating chips or invite network scrutiny. Onlookers keeping tabs on the case hoped TLC officials were paying close attention to events, weighing whether participation by Cody would hurt viewership or brand image. Media reports skyrocketed as arguments supporting Christine went viral. Front pages speculated sister wives placed Sister Wives show leader Cody Brown in actual danger of losing his position, and rumors included contract termination and show rehaul. Christine's legal strategy had succeeded in awakening not just the court but also the public and professional psyche regarding the case, raising stakes. The courtroom theatrics were only amplified as both sides set their sights for the next step: financial responsibility and settlement talks. Christine's group had hoped that demonstrating it would be better to resolve the issues promptly would not only stabilize the family, but also maintain the integrity of the Sister Wives show, potentially impacting TLC's decision-making process. Christine's attorneys waded through detailed records of financials in their ongoing courtroom drama, according to their deposition. Bank statements, receipts, and spreadsheets were presented, each itemized to disclose improprieties in the handling of pooled family monies by Cody. Christine's attorney highlighted patterns pointing toward misuse of funds, sometimes for her own use without reporting. Transparency is not optional, her attorney argued, especially where the livelihoods of family members and TLC's portrayal of our clients are concerned. All of the financial irregularities were paired with an accountant and family insider witness to guarantee the message that there was real-world consequence from mismanagement. The courtroom witnessed them highlighting items regarding high-end purchases, travel payouts, and unexpected cash withdrawals. Some of these charges were linked to outsiders of the family or shady enterprises, causing eyebrows to rise among witnesses and jurors alike. Legal watchers tracking the case noted that such precision is rare, generally siding with plaintiffs with concrete monetary losses. But Cody's lawyers maintained that some deals were misinterpreted. They argued that entertainment and lifestyle expenditures were part of their public image obligations to TLC, and therefore not personal abuse. When you are living your life in front of a camera, costs that appear to be personal actually subsidize the show, testified one attorney. But the records presented by Christine's attorneys were specific, tracking out individual dollars that could not be accounted for under that hypothesis. The judge questioned several of the important transactions, implying that the degree of specificity given was convincing and difficult to contend with. At the same time, Christine's group introduced the possibility of settlement concept and argued that an out-of-court settlement would offer financial accountability as well as family honor protection. Negotiation strategy was discussed in open forums in the courtroom, determining that Christine's group desired a legitimate repayment plan and perhaps employing the possibility of network intervention as leverage to support their cause. The settlement would not just restore stolen funds but also establish legal precedent for transparency in the family. The drama was amplified with media coverage. Twitter followers dissected every fiscal expose, sparking arguments over morality, responsibility, and reality television ethics. Headlines trumpeted that Christine's pursuit was not about money, it was about holding Cody accountable on multiple levels. As the case went on, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. What had begun as a technical legal argument spiraled into an emotional war zone, with relatives providing personal anecdotes on the stand and revealing the human cost of Cody's conduct. Christine took the stand first, her demeanor steady but resolute. She described years of economic stress and emotional strain induced by decisions made without her consent. Christine counted instances where family needs were put on the back burner to fund Cody's business ventures or frivolous spending. Her voice, though peaceful, was weighted, with each sentence underscoring that this was not about money. It was about equality, respect, and trust. She outlined how her attempts at discussing them in private were ignored, leaving legal action the only realistic solution. The judge listened carefully, at times requiring clarification of detail which served to illustrate how money mismanagement touched the everyday life of the family. Christine's evidence was poignant. Children harmed, holidays removed, and tension from living in perpetual financial uncertainty. The other members of the family continued, providing complimentary accounts. One sister complained about the lack of openness, while another spoke about the emotional impact of sitting idly by while Cody imposed decisions that had direct consequences for everybody's happiness. Their accounts were punctuated with photographs, records, and social media messages, providing a visual proof that supported their statements. The courtroom also witnessed intense confrontations between Cody and his co-defendants. Attorneys protested statements, cross-examined witnesses, and demanded concessions that would strengthen Christine's case and discredit Cody. At one point, the judge cross-examined Cody directly regarding a series of questionable transactions, which created a heated exchange that set the audience and press humming. Observers noted that these emotional narratives were rhetorically powerful. As fiscal mismanagement was outlined in legal documents, the emotional narratives humanized the conflict and appealed to the sense of justice of the judge and the public. Christine's team successfully combined emotional appeals with concrete facts, imposing on public perception that accountability mattered not just legally but morally. By the end of the day, news reports built the courtroom into a theater of revelation, where hidden family secrets and personal grudges were laid out for all to see. Social media pundits reacted with great emotion, often sympathizing with Christine and her supporters, increasing the heat on Cody and TLC. As the court action intensified, attention did begin to shift away from the family soap opera and onto the network that introduced Cody into living rooms across the nation, TLC. Industry insiders were watching the case closely, recognizing that Christine's suit could affect existing contracts and the future of the program. Christine's lawyers discreetly suggested that evidence of mismanagement and alleged deception might lead TLC executives to question Cody's value as a public figure. They insisted the charged financial misconduct was not ordinary domestic family disputes. They were a practice that would defile the network's reputation. Passages came out announcing that executives were scrutinizing bargains, considering clauses that would allow TLC to reconsider or even terminate Cody's contract. The network's prime concern, maintaining viewers' trust and avoiding being labeled with some scandal that will damage ratings or advertiser loyalty. Meanwhile, lawyers opined in the media, claiming that Christine's case had precedent appeal. If the court finds Cody liable for fraud or mismanagement, TLC would face a dilemma: continue to feature the Brown family's lives as entertainment, or disassociate itself for fear of damaging its image. The risk was monstrous. Millions of fans, loyal viewers, and sponsors all watched closely. Admittingly before a court, lawyers for Cody tried to minimize the damage to his television role. They argued his personal financial choices were separate from his television persona and insisted that TLC had no basis on which to alter existing deals. But the buildup of taped testimony, live testimony, and increasing public attention made the situation increasingly risky. Neutral media were relentless. Headlines hinted that Cody's TLC career was on a thread, as fan forums went crazy with rumors. Others stood with Christine, demanding accountability and fairness, while others stood with Cody, citing his contribution to the show as record-breaking success. This section of the story revealed a necessary revelation: the intersection of personal challenges and professional consequences. Christine's legal action wasn't just about bringing back financial stability. It could also revolutionize the public image of Cody. Every court revelation, every new bit of information, was echoed far beyond the courtroom walls. As news of Christine's lawsuit spread, the media frenzy turned relentless and searing. Entertainment sites, social networking sites, and fan sites all started analyzing each aspect of the case. Headlines cried of potential TLC fallout, Cody's alleged financial mishandling, and Christine's brazen legal maneuvering, driving public interest to all-time highs. Fans were divided sharply. Christine's fans praised her as a heroine for confronting Cody and calling him out. Hard Cody fans, on the other hand, rallied behind him, claiming that the lawsuit was an overstatement born of personal grievances. Social media sites became battlegrounds, with comment threads and pages clogged with heated arguments, memes, and conspiracy theories. Videos on YouTube and TikTok of excerpts of the court proceedings went viral within minutes, getting hundreds of thousands of hits. Influencers began producing analysis videos, breaking down every gesture, every expression, and every utterance between the attorneys and the judge. The virality placed pressure on the courtroom, becoming a feedback loop. The more the case made headlines, the more there was at stake for everyone involved. Fan forums around the same time were ablaze with conspiracy theories. Some jokingly said TLC would preemptively drop Cody, and others thought the network would hold with him to keep the show on schedule. Every minor development, like the judge's demand for additional paper or Christine introducing new evidence, was live streamed and dissected on the internet in a matter of minutes. Christine's lawyers worked the media play well. They were well aware that public opinion could shift the negotiation leverage and potential settlement negotiations. Strategically released court filings and comments created a perception of inexorability. Christine's battle was not so much about victory in the courtroom, as it was about creating a story that highlighted accountability, justice, and transparency. For Cody, the media frenzy was a double-edged sword. While ardent fans rallied round him for emotional support the clock attention inflated every mistake and generated public pressure to a boiling point. Reports of his own financial dealings, the supposed abuse of money from his family, and past scandals were a water-cooler staple every day, potentially eclipsing what he had contributed to the programming of TLC. The courtroom was electric as the judge began issuing key rulings that would redefine the future of the Sister Wives franchise. Christine's lawyers had prepared for this by putting their strongest evidence first out on the table: purported accounting records of discrepancies, timelines of questionable real estate moves, and records of potential contract violations with TLC. The judge read each document with fastidious care, burning questions that left Cody's defense on its heels. It was obvious the court was taking the network contract implications. In one stroke, the judge emphasized, the evidence produced is considerable and cannot be spurned lightly. That is, the case could quite well have an effect on Cody's business arrangements. Cody's attorneys attempted to assert that TLC contracts were different from personal matters, but Christine's side retorted by citing specific items under the network agreement that could render the pact void in case of mismanagement or financial fraud. The courtroom went silent as the judge perused the papers, an unmistakable sign that this was anything but a standard procedural hearing. Outside of the courtroom, entertainment reporters and legal commentators started speculating in real time. Such headlines as "Could Cody lose his TLC deal?" and "Christine forces network to reconsider contract" flooded social media. Every choice, procedural as well as not, was amplified as evidence of Christine's growing bargaining power. At the end of the session, the judge had made preliminary decisions in favor of Christine on critical matters. Requests for additional disclosures were granted, some motions challenging terms of the contract were upheld, and Cody was ordered to account fully for all finances related to the show. While the decisions did not suddenly stop the TLC deal, they set the stage for renegotiation or cancellation. The courtroom drama played much deeper than its legal ramifications. Fans and analysts were openly speculating on what is next, from settlements to a potential public exchange that would dominate headlines for several months. Christine's exquisite timing and detailed evidence had amassed an unimpeachable momentum, compelling Cody to battle both legal and popular attention simultaneously. With the final court hearing now behind them, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Christine's victories in the courtroom had transformed her not just into a plaintiff, but into a force capable of dictating the entire Sister Wives narrative. Cody, once the focal point with a hold on much of the family's public persona, now had legal and reputational stress that could redefine his personal and professional life. Inside and outside of the courtrooms, media scrutiny was unrelenting. Media headlines yelled about possible cancellations of contracts, fines, and public embarrassments. Social media went wild with speculation, memes, and arguments, all making the stakes of the case bigger. Every word said by Cody or his representatives was scanned for weakness indicators, and Christine's team was even praised for their strategic thinking and timing. The judge's decisions had already made Cody open up about vast amounts of financial information, which revealed discrepancies and continued to fuel rumors regarding his management of show and family funds. Legally obligatory transparency, it also carried PR implications. Critics and fans alike debated whether the cast would maintain its relationship with Cody or whether they would even think about the future of the show entirely. Industry insiders believed that networks are highly sensitive to extended legal wars about their celebrities. An extended court war, especially one that opens up potential instances of financial misconduct, can prompt TLC to renegotiate contracts or even halt production until the issues were resolved. Christine's court actions had placed Cody at the center of this scrutiny, promising all that the future of the franchise depended on her actions. To Christine, it was more than just a court victory. It was a statement of independence, a confirmation that foresight, understanding of the law, and timely action could spell a challenge to one who had once appeared unassailable. Her approach sent a clear message to Cody, the network, and the general public. She was ready and willing to pursue justice for what she perceived as injustices, no matter the level of stakes involved. Cody, on the other hand, was faced with a critical choice. He could attempt settlement talks, fight the decisions through appeals, or endure the ire of the attention of the court, all while dealing with the backlash among the public and media. The coming months would be pivotal, not just for his legal standing, but for his reputation, his family life, and the future of the Sister Wives show. As the courtroom emptied out, one thing was certain: the drama had just begun. Christine's lawsuit had upended the settled family hierarchy, undermined Cody's authority, and threatened the future of the show. Fans, critics, and the network would all be holding their breaths to watch whether Cody could turn it around, or if this was the beginning of something new, where Christine's authority reversed the story in its entirety. The courtroom door had closed, but ripple effects from this courtroom battle were only just beginning, positioning the Sister Wives saga for its next dramatic turn.